Welcome to the Giants Huddle podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Football Giants. John Schmeelk, joined by the King. Just look at his shirt. You know who this guy is.
Yeah, man.
It's Baldy's Breakdowns.
I gotta get some free advertising.
Absolutely.
Shameless advertising.
Brian Baldinger from NFL Network. Baldy, it's good to see you, man. How's your offseason been?
It's been good, John. It's been good. It always goes by too fast. Here we are right at the finish of this offseason. So, but it's okay, though. I've had a good, this thing just flows, whether it's, the combine and then the pro days and the draft and schedule. And it's just like it's got this thing like kind of greased where you just all of a sudden it's the middle of June.
Yeah, it comes fast. And now all of us kind of get our 6 weeks to step aside. We're recording this after the Giants' final minicamp practice. Baldy came, checked it out. Unfortunately for you, not a ton in terms of team and full speed stuff today, but give the fans a quick impression of what you saw.
Well, the first thing I saw, before they started their stretch today, John, I don't know if you saw it or not, they had this one period where it's just like this big play period, and I saw Daniel Jones hit Jalen Hyatt like 50 yards down the field, and then they ended up throwing a touchdown pass the next play, and then they kind of broke. So, it's just good seeing Daniel Jones throwing the ball, I think, for any Giant fan. The fact that he doesn't have a brace on his knee, just got a sleeve.
Yep.
It looks like the rehabilitation is on schedule. And then just looking at the new guys, Schmeelk, obviously, you want to kind of watch him, just his movement. That's the first thing that caught my eye was just his movement. Change direction, catches the ball with his hands. Looking at Tyler Nubin back there at safety, Drew Phillips. Looking at Jermaine Luminar at left guard, Runyon at right guard. Just looking at the new faces here right now.
Absolutely. All right, well, you brought up the offense first. Why don't we touch that first real quick? Daniel Jones, he had a good year 2 years ago. Last year, much like the rest of the offense, was a bit of a disaster because the pieces around him just – everything fell apart at once, right?
Well, it fell apart in the opening game.
Yeah, and the opening game, first series.
You're going to kick a field goal, and there's Andrew, grabbing his hamstring. It's just, and then John Michael got hurt, and Saquon got hurt, and Daniel, it fell apart. It was hard. It's kind of a tough evaluation, to be honest with you.
Well, and that's the question I was going to ask you, because I watch the tape every game on Monday. You watch the tape of all these games, and honestly, I have trouble taking anything substantial out of Daniel Jones's tape last year just because of what those 5 or 6 games that he played in looked like on tape and what was going on around him. I just can't change my mind much from what I saw the previous year because last year was just so messy.
It was ugly. It was really ugly. There were games where you go, I remember the game in New Orleans last year, and they ran the same blitz over and over again. They couldn't pick it up. And so John Michael was out, did whatever in there, but it was just hard. The quarterbacks got sacked 85 times. The quarterbacks that played last year, Tyrod and Tommy, and so it was just it's just tough. Like nobody wants to go through any kind of a year like that again. I know that Andrew Thomas is a good player,
of course,
really good player, and he got back into form and started looking like what he did the year before. And so now it's a question of how quickly can they put this group together. To me. And that's really, to me, what preseason's got to be. I talked to Carmen today, the new offensive line coach, been around this league. He's coached some of these guys. He's got his techniques. How quickly can those 5 guys, including the tight ends, how quickly can they come together and just start winning the line of scrimmage?
And look, we got to see what Evan Neal is at right tackle. He hasn't done a whole lot in the offseason. You hope he's going to come back, and we'll get to him specifically in a second. But how much, Baldy, of a difference can the new offensive line coach make in conjunction with bringing in 2 veteran guards to help supplement Andrew Thomas, who to your mention is already a really good player, and help out your 2 youngsters, JMS at center and then at right tackle? What kind of substantive difference and how can those guys, specifically Carmen Brasola, make a difference with a unit like that very quickly?
Well, first of all, you're only going to be as good up front as your center. So when your center is making all the calls, everybody knows exactly where they're going, can be stout against, one techniques, nose tackles that can be stout, and you can keep that pocket just flat up front. Quarterbacks you want to come off the edge at quarterbacks. Daniel Jones in this league, the good quarterbacks, they can avoid the outside pressure.
Because you can step up.
You could step up, but you need to be able to step up.
You need depth.
You need that depth. So you got to keep that front flat. In fact, I was talking to Jermaine today, Illuminar, and he was asking, I was asking him about going up against Dexter Lawrence. So, Dexter Lawrence is a freak in his business. There's just not many guys in this league that are 360 pounds that can rush the passer.
Of course.
So what you have to do to a guy like that, you have to almost run block him every play. You can't let him get any kind of esteem coming at you. And so when I talk about keeping that pocket flat, some of it is game planning against some of the monsters up front that you got to see. You can't let those guys basically start leaking into the quarterback's feet and steps where he can't step up and make these throws.
You're ready for a change. Payday comes early with Citizens, so go to that retreat. New you moves to the country. Now you're raising goats and launching a lifestyle brand. Are you ready for all that life brings?
Absolutely. What do you think of John Michael Schmitz? I know you evaluated him as a player coming out last year. First year, some real rough patches for a rookie, and I talked to him last week, and Baldy said, look, the first season for me, it didn't go as well as I wanted it to. But what did you think of him overall as a player coming out and what his overall
I liked him coming out of
promise is?
Minnesota. Look, there was Joe Tippmann. I mean, there was a couple guys last year that all came out.
Sure.
They all got a chance to play. I think they all kind of saw that this thing was going to be a lot different than college, which it is, obviously. But I think, what you want is you want to identify, like your job is to basically identify the fronts, make the calls, make the checks, when a play does come in late, to be able to redirect everybody. So everybody's stepping together. So I thought it was tough because of all the changes and all the personnel groups. Like, I think if you could get Jermaine and John in there, John's a very smart player. I've known John a long time. I've worked out with him down there in South Jersey. He's a very, very smart player, and he's been a consistent player.
Yeah.
So I think what you're looking for is consistency and intelligence where you're not beating yourself, where the blitz, the A-gap pressure, none of that stuff is affecting you. They want to mug that gap. They want to come. They don't want to come. You got to have an answer for all of that stuff because you're going to see everything. And so I think, John Michael, got a chance to see a lot of that he never saw when he was in the Big Ten.
And to your point, the Giants struggled a lot with twists and stunts over the past couple of years, Baldy.
With Wink, yeah. I mean, they come at you in different ways.
They could, and the Giants' offensive line struggled picking them up in game situations too. How much could an addition of a guy like Carmen Brasillo, resetting what your pass protection rules are, how you handle those things, then maybe tweaking some overall technique, how much can that make a difference in terms of getting the unit playing well
Carmen's
together?
a good coach. I talked to him before practice today. He's been around. He knows how to teach, individual techniques, coach the group. The big thing for Carmen right now is can he get 5 guys to line up and play week in, week out? For example, like the Kansas City Chiefs have basically lined up with Trey Smith and, all their guys up front for their 3 inside guys, basically almost every play for the last 3 years. So, can he get 5 guys that can grow together as one? That's one. And then the big thing for Carm is, you're in a dogfight. It's Sunday afternoon. It's third quarter. You've got to fix things. You can't get to the Mike linebacker in this run. How are we getting to the Mike? Are we folding this thing? To make the adjustments that you have to make game day, that's when it's one thing to build a line, to teach the techniques and all that, to make you a better individual player. It's another thing, game day, you got to fix things when things aren't going well.
Yeah, absolutely. Final one on the offensive line, Evan Neal. He's had his struggles the first couple of years. Joe Shane said this offseason, Baldy, he needs to play better. The Giants need him to play better. He's battled a knee injury his first year. He had an ankle injury last year. He hasn't done a lot this offseason, which, I talked to him last week. Reps, he says, I've lost a lot of reps, and I wish I had them. From you watching him, from a fundamental standpoint, what are some of the things fundamentally that he has to do better to be a more consistent pass protector?
Well, you like to see him have quicker feet. And if you can't quicken your footwork, you'd like to see your sets consistent sets. And so sometimes you have to adjust your set to the elite. Like the right tackles in this league right now go against better pass rushers than left tackles do. It's just the way it is right now. If you were playing Philly the last 3 years, you saw Hassan Reddick.
Jermaine Illuminor talked about it. He faced Max Crosby in practice every day at right tackle.
Yeah, you're going to see TJ Watt. You're going to see the best right now at right tackle. So, and these guys are all different. So you have to be able to game plan that. But it starts with your set and understanding the contact point, how you're hitting them, how you're stopping, because every pass rusher wants to beat you inside. And so if they can beat you inside, that's the quickest route to the quarterback. Mm-hmm. So you've got to take the inside away, yet these guys know how to ghost, to dip. You got to be able to handle the guys coming around the edge, too, and how low they can get. If you're going up against Bryce Huff for the Jets or Like these guys.
Hassan Reddick, a good example of that.
Hassan
Right?
Reddick, they have excellent takeoffs, and they can dip and they can rip. And so it's got to start with taking the inside away, and then once they start coming to the outside, you got to be able to run the horn, and you got to stay between your. I like freezing, John, the tape when the quarterback releases the ball, and where the pass rusher is when the ball is released. You want to see a separation. I don't care if it's 8 inches. I want separation between that pass rusher and my quarterback, and he's got to get better at that. And then, look, he was a good run blocker at Alabama. Like, I want to see him. Now, it hasn't helped that he's had different tight ends and different guards, but you want to start seeing a relationship with John Runyon develop in the run game, whether it's combo blocking for power plays, whether it's zone blocking in your stretch plays. You want to see consistent steps and movement at the point of attack.
No, absolutely. Offense, real quickly, Baldy, before we move over to the defensive side of the ball. By the way, first of all, folks, Giants have their big event at MSG the evening of June 20th. It's our night with champions. A bunch of former Giants are going to be there, celebrate the Giants 100th season. Make sure you go buy your tickets at Ticketmaster.com. A lot of great stuff will be going on. They'll have merchandise, Giants artifacts from the Hall of Fame. Bob Papa will host the whole event. A lot of great stuff. Make sure you go buy your tickets again at Ticketmaster.com. You can check that out or go to Giants.com. All the information is there as well. For the first time in a while, Baldy, I think this Giants wide receiver group can be a strength of this team. And I don't know when the last time is we could say that, but they got some pretty good, fun young pieces here that I'm pretty excited about.
Well, I mean, just looking at how it lined up today. I mean, you got Malik at right, split end. You see Jalen at left. You see Wandale in the slot. Slayton's out there. Like, I mean, you can line up with 3 guys, I think, that can win. I'm looking for Jalen to take a step up this year. It didn't help with all the situations. But I just watching Malik, like, I thought this was an elite group at the very top of this draft.
Agreed.
And so on any given day, you could have said Malik was the best. On any given day, you could have said that about Rome or Marvin Harrison. Regardless, they're all going to be kind of judged together. And so, but I think Malik has that ability after the catch to be special. We haven't really seen that in the Giants since Odell was a young player here, where after the catch, you had to kind of hold your breath to see what he was going to do with the ball. And that's how he became the all-time leading receiver at LSU. So I think the fact that, like, I just saw some quick screens, some hitches out there to him to get the ball in his hands. Like, I think you've got 3 guys, and Wandale's an excellent slot receiver. So I feel like you've got 3 guys out there that can beat you with their routes, that can beat you with their quickness, that can win after the catch.
All right, let's jump to defense. And I think what should be the strength of this team, Baldy, is your players up front. You already mentioned Dexter Lawrence. You had Brian Burns. Kayvon Thibodeau is back. You hope you can keep Azeez Ojulari healthy. You have a bunch of other bodies you can play inside. This, if everything goes right, they could start approaching the fronts that they have in the NFC East, right? Whether it's Washington, it's not quite the same. They've lost Montez Sweat and all that stuff. Cowboys a good front. Eagles a good front. I feel like the Giants are building their personnel where they can start competing with those other teams.
You need like, I think they, I'm going to see who wins the 3 technique.
Yeah, me too. I'm curious to see that too.
I mean, it's such an important position for so many different reasons, because most of the protections are set to the 3 technique, especially if he is just a beast. Like in Philly, they got Jalen Carter.
And the Giants had Leonard Williams there, but obviously he left in free agency. Yep.
So, I mean, if Leonard was here, like I'd say it's really complete, but we can't, play like that. You need 3 guys. And so, like, I think Brian Burns had a guy in Carolina, in Derek Brown, who was almost unblockable. He had over 100 tackles last year. Like, it allowed him to do some things. But I think Kayvon needs, like, we've been waiting on Azeez. The injuries have slowed him down.
Yep.
But Kayvon needs a guy opposite him, and he needs a guy inside, I think, to really be the most effective that he can be. But it does start up front. And what you want, though, is you want to be able to – everybody has got depth. Everybody is building that group to be 7, 8 deep. You're dressing 8 defensive linemen now. And really, it's a 17-game schedule. You want to get them through the season and then hopefully to the postseason. But, you want to be able to run them. There's only certain guys that, a Max Crosby and Nick, can play 80, 90% of the snaps or more.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that, but so that you want depth along that defensive front so that things don't go awry when those guys are taking a rest.
You love turf. You're good at it. So you start a turf biz. Business grows, your savings grow. Become the most celebrated name in turf. Are you ready for all that life brings?
Football season is coming, so is the next college semester. If you need funding, a Citizens student loan could help you pay for 100% of your school certified costs. Get your rate quote in about 2 minutes at citizensbank.com/payforcollege. Baldy, I feel like Bobby Okereke's season got lost last year a little bit. He played damn well, and I'm curious to see in Shane Bowen's new defensive system how he is going to be impacted. I know there's a lot more zone. There's going to be probably less blitzing, obviously. How do you think Bobby Okereke is going to fit into what Shane Bowen's asking the defense to do?
I think Bobby can play in any system.
I agree.
Okay, I just think he's a natural Mike linebacker. He's super smart. He sees the play before it begins. I don't want to compare him to Fred Warner. There's only one Fred Warner in this business. He plays every snap, every year, every game. Now Bobby's been healthy. He played every snap last year. And it was a blitz scheme. And so he had to cover a lot. Now, he did blitz some, but he had to cover a lot in a lot of ground in what Wink was doing. You're not going to see those kind of blitzes and those kind of schemes. But I think every inside linebacker needs a partner. I don't know if it's Micah right now, like who that is, McFadden that is. But every single off-the-ball inside linebacker needs a partner he can play next to. In Indy, he had Shaq Leonard. Shaq was a playmaker. I feel like Bobby can fill up the stat sheet with some of the best off-the-ball inside linebackers in this business.
Secondary, Shane Bowen, like we spoke about, a lot more zone, good combination of match zone, spot zone, but a lot of split safety. They'll mix it up, cover 2, cover 4, cover 6. And he said today they'll be very variable. They won't show anything pre-snap. Then all of a sudden the snap, you get into your zone and you figure things out. So what should be the important things we watch for, Baldy, when we get to camp for these corners to be good at, as there really is an open competition for the starting nickel spot and for the starting outside spot next to Deontay Banks?
Well, they're young. They're very young back there. You might be counting on, the rookie and Tyler Nubin, might be counting on Drew Phillips.
Yep.
So they're young. So we'll see what Trey Hawkins is like, in his second year. Obviously he got thrown in there last year. It probably wasn't the best thing for him. But
a little fast for him last year.
Fast.
Yeah, a little fast.
Okay. But regardless, he's a talented kid. You want to, but here's the thing is if you blow coverages or miss tackles, you give up touchdowns or big plays. It falls on the secondary. So the big thing is communication. And with young guys, can you communicate? Like I saw where Tyler Nubin is wearing number 31 for Antoine Winfield Jr.
Yep.
You go out to watch Tampa practice, you can hear Antoine from the cheap seats. He's making sure everybody understands. One thing to listen for throughout this training camp coming up is, can you hear the communication back there? Because if they're not communicating, because this matchup zone, look, Baltimore ran it better than anybody last year, and that led to the number one defensive football and the team that led the league in sacks.
And he got a head coaching job out of it, by the way.
Yes, he did. But it makes the quarterback hold the ball. Mm-hmm. So what you do is, you kind of give him a too high shell, and then at the snap, now you move, and now you sort of declare what you're in. Now, that takes timing and it takes a lot of confidence to get to your spot. Off of that, you're not lining up in it. You don't want the quarterback to know until the ball. So those are fundamentals of Shane. That's fine. You got to execute it now.
Absolutely, and we'll see if they can do it. Baldy, this was fun, man.
Yeah.
And this will not be, by the way, the last time you see Baldy on our programming this year. So stay tuned.
Yep.
Once we get to training camp, if Baldy makes an appearance here, we'll talk to him again. Then the regular season even, folks, you'll be hearing Baldy on the Giants Huddle podcast and maybe even seeing some stuff on social media, YouTube, Twitter, some of those things that he talks about on his T-shirt there. So we can't wait for it. Glad to have Baldy on board with us, and we'll talk to you next time on the Giants Huddle podcast, everybody.